1. During a school outing, my childhood friend had an asthma attack. At the critical moment, I gave him mouth-to-mouth resuscitation in no time. Rumors spread everywhere, and Lin Yan's crush broke things off with him because of it. In utter despair, he tearfully proposed to me. I'd secretly loved him since childhood and even saved his life, so I shyly said yes, thinking I was heading for a happy ending. Little did I know, he hated me for splitting him and Lee Si-Yuan up, and completely ignored me. Later, he even remembered that he had brought his medicine that day and decided I was shameless and had deliberately tried to seduce him, making him despise me even more. To get back at me, he stopped me from going home and refused to hire a nanny anymore. Instead, he made me take care of his paralyzed parents, and even poured money and effort into the already divorced Lee Si-Yuan, helping her land a job. She became a glamorous, high-powered career woman, while I turned into an aging, broke housewife who couldn't even get divorced, forced to beg for money just to buy medicine when I got sick. After my heart had gone numb from the pain, I started regretting why I had given Lin Yan CPR that day, why I had agreed to Lin Yan's proposal, why I had ever liked Lin Yan. If I had turned him down, would I have lived a different life? I had thought I would spend my whole life in despair and resentment, but when I opened my eyes again, I had actually gone back to the moment when Lin Yan's asthma attack hit. Ah, somebody, come quick, Lin Yan looks like he's about to die. The piercing cry suddenly rang out right beside my ear. I snapped back to my senses. My body, which had felt weak and unsteady from long-term malnutrition, now stood firmly on its feet. After standing there for a moment to catch my breath, I finally looked toward where the voice had come from. By then, a crowd had already gathered 3 layers deep around something. From within came faint, labored gasps of oh hey, and a hand sticking out through the crowd kept twitching from time to time. Shiyu, a startled cry beside my ear jolted me awake. Lin Yan, what happened to him? The thing I had replayed over and over in my mind was unfolding right before my eyes. In that instant, I realized I had gone back 20 years, to the time when Lin Yan had an asthma attack. That day, the school organized an outing and required students to hike up North Peak, a mountain at an elevation of about 2,000 meters. The school's rules were relaxed. Any student who didn't want to take part could stay home, but in order to be with the girl he had a crush on, my childhood friend Lin Yan secretly hid his history of asthma and sneaked into the group. When I found out about his plan, I tried everything to talk him out of it, but he not only refused to appreciate my concern, he even lashed out at me, threatening and pleading in turn. With no other choice, I gave up trying to stop him from joining, but I kept my eyes on him the entire time we were on the move. When I discovered he had triggered an asthma attack from overexertion, I immediately reported it to the teacher, but before the trip, everyone had already been screened, and the school had strictly required that students with medical histories were not allowed to participate. The accompanying doctor only brought basic treatment medication with no other option. I had no choice but to step in and try my luck with the one thing I had experience with, having witnessed my childhood friend's asthma attacks many times before. I thought he must have carried his medication with him after living with asthma for years, but to my shock, he had brought medicine. All right, expired medicine. As you know, once medication expires, its effectiveness can fade or disappear entirely, and in severe cases it can even have harmful effects. By then, he was already struggling to breathe, his lips turning blue, and he had even started foaming at the mouth. He was clearly not going to make it. In a panic, I had no choice but to perform CPR and mouth-to-mouth on him. I was just trying to do a good deed, but who knew it would ruin my life forever too. After I saved Lin Yan, his parents invited my family to dinner to thank us. It was just the usual courtesy between families, but when we went back to school, rumors started spreading that Lin Yan and I were already engaged. Before we even had a chance to explain, the campus network was already spreading rumors that I had once said Lin Yan was a nice guy and that of course I liked him. They even said that when I gave him mouth-to-mouth, it was all premeditated, that I was shamelessly throwing myself at him just to break him and Lee Si-Yuan up. Faced with such vicious rumors for the first time, I was at a loss. Before Lin Yan and I could even figure out how to deal with it, Lee Si-Yuan had already blocked and deleted Lin Yan in one swift move. She even threw the necklace Lin Yan gave her straight into the trash in front of the entire school, saying she would never want a used man like him. Lin Yan had secretly loved Lee Si-Yuan for a long time and saw her as the only light in his life. How could he let go so easily? After desperately trying to win her back for a long time, Lee Si-Yuan remained utterly resolute. even rushing to get engaged to the student council president just to avoid Lin Yan seeing this. Lin Yan finally gave up and stopped struggling, but with the only light in his life gone, he seemed to have turned into an emotionless walking corpse. I had secretly loved him for years, and because of the rumors, I was forced to be tied to him, with both sets of parents pressing us and pleading endlessly. I started taking care of him, so little by little, Lin Yan finally regained some energy, and I was genuinely happy for him. I thought we would only get better from there, but to my surprise, one day, Lin Yan suddenly proposed to me. Shiyu, since it's come to this, let's be together, then let's be together. How did I answer back then? How could a girl head over heels in love, naive about the world, and always cherished by her parents possibly hear the reluctance hidden in those words? There were no flowers, no ring, but I still agreed, happy, surprised, and in disbelief. For the next 20 years, I would pay the price for that sloppy proposal and his casual attitude. If I'd been a little smarter back then and seen through his half-hearted, indifferent attitude, if I'd set aside that childhood friend filter and turned him down, then maybe my life wouldn't have been so hard. She wouldn't have to start out young by wiping an old mother-in-law's and father-in-law's butt and changing their diapers. She wouldn't spend the best years of her life tied up at the stove or in hospitals. She wouldn't be too embarrassed to say when she was sick. She wouldn't have to swallow sarcasm in silence. She wouldn't be looked down on by the person closest to her, the man in her own bed, and she wouldn't have to stand by helplessly after marriage, watching her husband pour all his energy into another woman. I'd broken down before, cried before, made a scene before, but Lin Yan still said, "You were the one who agreed to marry me in the first place. I never begged you to marry me. What's wrong with taking care of Li Siyuan? You know I like her. If you hadn't clung to me back then, the one who'd be with me now would be her. Would she have been cheated on? Would she have been abused? Would she have been kicked out with nothing? Would she be in debt? No, you owe her all this. I don't owe you anything either. You've been eating and drinking off me all these years, and you act like it's only natural. What's wrong with me paying for my teenage dream girl? It's my money. Don't you dare reach too far. How do I owe her? It's not like I forced her to marry that man, and I wasn't the one who wanted to marry him either. Mouth to mouth was just to save his life. There was no other reason. I never imagined that the crush I had as a teenager would make him think I was throwing myself at him, willing to degrade myself. When I was at the end of my rope, I asked for a divorce, but Lin Yan still wouldn't let go. This marriage was something you begged for after I gave you CPR instead of giving you medicine. You ruined what Li Siyuan and I fought so hard to get. Do you think you can just decide to end it whenever you want? I cried and shouted, desperately telling him that the medicine had expired. The doctor who came along wasn't even trained in medicine. I had no choice but to do that, yet Lin Yan only looked at me with contempt and a mocking expression, as if to say, go on, keep making it up. Under his gaze, my heart died completely, and I finally understood. He would never believe me. I was utterly broken, crying hysterically without any dignity. If I could go back to that day, I would never save you. Lin Yan's expression was cold as he said, if I could, I wouldn't want you to save me either. Meeting his icy gaze, I knew he was serious too. As Lin Yan struggled painfully on the ground, I finally calmed the excitement churning inside me and slowly came to a stop. In my previous life, when I saw him lying on the ground struggling in agony, I immediately called an ambulance and asked a teacher to bring the accompanying school nurse over. Then, after hearing the nurse politely decline in a very tactful tone, I grew so anxious that I decisively started CPR and mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. But now, I wasn't anxious at all. I just stood off to the side, watching coldly as Lin Yan struggled, without the slightest hint of nervousness. Because of that, I noticed a person in this life whom I had completely failed to pay attention to in my previous one. Li Siyuan, who had been standing outside the crowd, quickly pushed her way in after hearing the screams and shouts, but the moment she saw Lin Yan inside, with a bluish-purple face, pale lips, and the occasional strange sound escaping him, her expression changed at once, and she quietly took a step back. In my previous life, when I heard that Lin Yan's asthma had flared up, I was so anxious I was beside myself and didn't have time to notice these little gestures. But this time, I saw them all clearly. Cheating on her, not knowing the line between friends, a second-hand man. She probably only realized at this point that Lin Yan had hereditary asthma and was afraid and disgusted by it. Vaguely, I seemed to have figured out a bit of the truth, but I didn't make a fuss about it. I just kept watching the crowd packed together. When someone is having an asthma attack, It's not recommended for people to crowd around them, because the air around the patient needs to stay well ventilated, otherwise, someone who's already having trouble breathing will have even less air to breathe. I hesitated, unsure whether I should step forward and pull apart these people crowding together and blocking the airflow. After all, I'd been educated for so many years. I could choose not to act, but letting someone die in front of me because I deliberately did nothing would still weigh on my conscience. I stepped forward and was just about to speak when Lin Yan, who had been lying there like a dead dog among the crowd and twitching occasionally with his face turned toward me, suddenly widened his eyes desperately after seeing what I was about to do. With all his strength, he shouted, "No!" At the same time, he frantically reached out toward me with one hand. Palm up, a clear gesture of rejection and stopping me, overwhelmed with agitation. Even his face had twisted out of shape, the whites of his eyes were bloodshot, and the veins on the back of his hand bulged out. He looked like a zombie on the verge of mutating. I had originally wanted to offer a friendly reminder, given all these years of compulsory education, but after seeing him reject me so desperately, I immediately stopped in my tracks. You have to know, in my previous life, Lin Yan, already too weak to do much because of an asthma attack, had never had this kind of reaction, but now, he was truly crying out with his life on the line. How could I not know he had changed? How could I not know what his attitude was? I guess it's my own fault for being a busybody and always wanting to do good deeds. I gave a cold laugh and didn't step forward, having stopped me from coming closer. Lin Yan, who had just shouted with all his remaining strength, finally seemed to let out a breath. His struggling weakened considerably, and the strange wheezing sounds in his throat kept going. His hand hung limply on the stone slab, and he could only lie there powerless, staring blankly at the sky as he rasped out, "Back, away." The medicine pocket, because he was so short of breath. His words were hard to make out and very quiet, but they were all enthusiastic college students, and they were genuinely afraid he might die and that anyone standing too close would be held responsible. After hearing what he said and finishing their little spectacle, they immediately stepped back. With that, a large open space finally cleared out around Lin Yan. The air could flow again, and as the cool breeze blew in, he began clutching his chest and coughing violently. He was coughing like he was about to cough his lungs out. How could a bunch of mostly healthy college students have ever seen such a gruesome scene? They were so startled that they took 2 steps back on the spot, but Lin Yan was too busy trying to recover from the coughing fit, and he still had other things on his mind. How could he spare a thought for anyone else's reaction? He was just clutching his chest, his face ashen, struggling to turn his head. With great effort, he forced a smile and looked toward Li Siyuan, who stood not far away, staring at him in shock, her face drained of color, while he rolled his eyes and mumbled something indistinctly. Thanks to all those years we'd spent together, I understood what he meant. Instantly, you see, Siyuan, this time I didn't let her get close to me. I'm clean. I understood every word he was saying, and all I felt was absurdity. I also genuinely found my self-moved behavior from my previous life laughable and pathetic. Is this what love is? Willing to throw away your life, throw away the rest of your days? I closed my eyes and stopped watching Lin Yan's emotional performance. After all that back and forth, the school nurse finally arrived at a snail's pace, just like in my previous life. Since no one had reported that he had asthma, he hadn't brought any asthma medication at all. Even after getting a second chance, Lin Yan remained stubbornly determined. Though he was already lying on the ground, his eyes clouded over, he still said to the elderly school doctor, "Ket," but everyone had barely interacted with him before and knew next to nothing about him. They were so anxious that they listened for a long while, yet still couldn't make out what he was trying to say. Seeing that he was about to die right in front of them, the school doctor and the other students grew restless, thinking that I was his childhood friend and closer to him. They couldn't help looking at me for help, while all talking over one another. "Shiyu, come here and listen to what he's actually saying. We don't know him well, but you do. Come help take care of him. He's mumbling so badly, we can't understand him. He's your childhood friend, and you know him better. You should be able to tell what he's saying, right?" Just 3 or 4 sentences, and they already had me morally guilt-tripped into staying put. I still remember Lin Yan's life or death cry so clearly. I'd already fully understood his attitude too. How could I possibly go out of my way to throw myself at him? I frowned and was about to pretend to be reluctant and say something, but before I could even open my mouth, Lin Yan blurted out his disgust with no attempt to hide it, because he was angry and caring so much. His voice was Even louder, no need, I have to take responsibility, the medicine is in my pocket. With that sudden burst of strength, as if he'd been granted a final surge of energy, his words were heard clearly by everyone and the school nurse, who had been worrying and fretting for so long before finally understanding the words coming out of his mouth, along with the surrounding students watching the commotion, no longer cared about his disgust and obvious desire to avoid them, and hurriedly fished out the medicine bottle without even checking the production date or other warnings. I hurriedly fed it to him, knowing this was his chance to stay alive. Lin Yan immediately closed his eyes and cooperated, struggling to swallow it down. After taking several pills, Lin Yan patiently waited for a while, but to his surprise, not only did he not get better, his breathing grew even louder, and his face kept growing redder and redder. At that moment, Lin Yan, who had been lying on the ground before and hadn't even bothered to look over here to mock me, struggled to move his head and turned his face toward me. His face was already flushed scarlet from the difficulty of breathing caused by asthma, and his eyes had gone bloodshot. He looked fierce and terrifying, completely unlike his usual refined appearance, yet he had no time to care about how he looked anymore. As breathing became more and more difficult, he couldn't help lifting his eyes to me with a pleading look for help. While his mouth moved laboriously, opening and closing as he tried to speak, breathing was extremely hard for him, and everything he tried to say came out as a wheeze. I know what he's saying, save me, I'll marry you. Once I realized what he meant, I couldn't help sneering inwardly. If he had held out to the end, even if he died, I would only have found it laughable, but now, I thought he was so devoted, so unwavering, so when he thinks he's about to die, he'll still beg for help. After all, he'll marry me, as if that were some great favor. Ridiculous. I stood there without moving, looking down at him coldly and watching from the sidelines. Meeting my indifferent gaze, the plea in Lin Yan's eyes gradually faded, replaced by shock. Before he could show any more emotion, he had already closed his eyes and completely passed out. Seeing his head loll weakly to one side, everyone around immediately panicked. Even the school doctor panicked badly. He hurriedly reached out to check his breathing, and that sight finally brought a little color back to his pale face, though not much. In a flurry, he called over a few students to help him carry the boy down the mountain. With everyone under pressure and a human life on the line, along with their own jobs, every move was lightning fast. In just over 5 minutes, the boy was loaded onto an ambulance, kept alive, and rushed into the hospital's emergency room. I watched coldly as the emergency room door closed, then turned to leave with the classmate who was drenched in sweat and complaining nonstop, preparing to head back to school. Having a second chance at life, I had my own things to deal with. How could I possibly stay by his side? But Lin Yan was my bad luck charm. Before I could even leave the hospital, his parents, who had rushed over in a panic, stopped me, seeing their son sent to the hospital while I stood there completely unaffected, calm as ever and even apparently planning to leave. They flew into an immediate rage. Lu Shiyu, my son was perfectly fine, why did he end up in the hospital? You're a grown woman, don't you know how to keep an eye on him properly? This completely out of place shout immediately drew the attention of everyone in the hospital corridor. I'd already experienced the power of words, and I was no longer the naive, clueless little sweetheart I used to be. This was clearly deliberate on Mrs. Lin's and Mr. Lin's part. They wanted to pin the reason their son fell ill on me, make everyone think it was my fault, and use that to force me to take responsibility. If this had been the me from before, the one who had a crush on Lin Yan, I probably would have swallowed that baseless accusation and walked right into the cage they'd built, just as they wanted. Out of guilt, I'd spent more than 10 years caring for Lin Yan's paralyzed parents, so I'd known all along that they were nasty people, but I never imagined they could be this shamelessly vicious. I was already full of resentment, and now I had no intention of showing any respect for my elders either. I let out a cold laugh. What does your son ending up in the hospital have to do with me? Did I make his asthma attack happen? Why should I be watching him? We're not related, we're not even really classmates, and I'm certainly not some babysitter you hired. I'm a grown adult. Don't you remember your son is only a few months older than me? Your son doesn't even look after himself, so why should I look after him? As I spoke, I forcefully shoved away Mrs. Lin's hand that was gripping my arm and took an annoyed step back. I'd clearly never expected to hear me speak to them like that. Mother Lin stared at me in shock, eyes wide, clutching her chest as she struggled to find words. Seeing her like that, a flash of disgust crossed my eyes. Their whole family has asthma. Fighting people like them, even if I won, I'd be the one losing out right away. I stopped wasting words on them, turned around, and left quickly, seeing Mother Lin clutching her chest. Father Lin immediately rushed over in a panic to support her and look for her medication, with their son also keeping them tied up at the hospital. They had no time to deal with me, so I seized the opportunity and left the hospital without a second thought. On the way back to school, I immediately called my parents to tell them what had happened that day and how Father Lin and Mother Lin had treated me. After flying into a rage, my parents promptly decided to cut off all ties with them for good. At the same time, they immediately sold the house near the Lin family's place with no more worries weighing on me, and having learned from my past life, I threw myself into my studies and worked hard, maybe because I was truly putting in the effort and didn't care one bit about Lin Yan's affairs, and because after he fainted I did nothing at all, while Lin Yan ended up back in the hospital. This time no one spread rumors about me, they only said Lin Yan was crazy, knowing full well he was sick. He still went mountain climbing anyway, leaving everyone worried sick the whole way. It had nothing to do with me, so I stopped bothering with it. I kept studying, but the happy, carefree days were always short-lived. Before I knew it, Lin Yan, who had spent 2 weeks in the hospital, was back. His complexion had turned even paler, his lips had no color at all, and he had lost a lot of weight. There was none of that bright, handsome look from before. He even had to take the stairs slowly and with effort. That asthma attack, with medication that wasn't strong enough and treatment that came too late, left him with lingering heart and lung problems as well as respiratory failure. Before, he simply couldn't do strenuous exercise. Now, even activities that took a little effort were off limits. I don't know whether he regrets it, but in any case, he's clean now. On the day we went back to school, Lin Yan went straight to find Li Siyuan, and didn't even come to see me, his childhood friend who had just been threatened by his parents. I was more than happy to have some peace and quiet, and listened to his gossip with great interest. That day, he spent 3 hours walking there, finally arriving at the girls' dormitory downstairs, sweaty and clutching a bouquet of flowers. For a normal person, it would only take half an hour to get there. Then he knelt on one knee, pulled out a ring with heartfelt seriousness, and started his confession. But Li Siyuan never even came downstairs. He stayed kneeling for nearly 3 hours, and by the time most of the onlookers had left, Li Siyuan's best friend finally showed up and said apologetically, "Siyuan hurt her leg and can't come down." How about a few days later, after being the joke of the afternoon, Lin Yan's eyes had been dead and lifeless, but the moment he heard such an obvious excuse, his eyes lit up at once, and he seemed to come alive again. As if he'd been injected with a stimulant, he nervously and excitedly nodded, rubbing his fingers together as he stammered to the girl, "Take good care of Siyuan, tell her not to worry about me, I can wait many days, tell her to take care of herself first," and only then left happily. Yet just 2 days after he left, Li Siyuan, who had injured her leg and couldn't even make it downstairs before, actually went out to have fun, and after drinking herself dizzy, somehow ended up sleeping with the student council president. The moment this came to light, rumors immediately started flying around the school. Oh my god, Li Siyuan was always so shocking, and yet she quietly pulled off something huge, no warning at all, and she just slept with someone. I heard she'd been trying to seduce Chen Kai behind the scenes more than once, just because he's a rich second-generation heir. Wasn't he the one who used to go back and forth with Lin Yan before? Sure, Lin Yan's family is only comfortably well off. He's just a little nicer tempered and a little better looking, that's all. How could he possibly compare to Chen Kai? And now it's been exposed that he has hereditary asthma. He looks like he could drop dead any minute. Who would dare get involved with him? The rumor spread everywhere, yet perhaps because Lin Yan still had that dazzling confidence deep inside, he kept holding on even though his face had gone pale. He said to Li Siyuan, "It's okay, I don't mind, Siyuan, trust me, I'll take good care of you." Okay, but tears welled in Li Siyuan's beautiful eyes. She covered her mouth, shook her head gently, and cried her heart out. "It won't work, Lin Yan, I'm sorry, I've already given myself to him. I can never accept anyone else again, I'm sorry." With that, she decisively and cleanly put an end to her past relationship with Lin Yan. No one had expected that she would actually reject him. Lin Yan staggered, and the students who had previously seen him during an episode all backed away. Seeing this, Lin Yan gave a self-mocking smile. In that moment, he seemed to understand something. A self-deprecating smile tugged at the corners of Lin Yan's mouth as he nodded with difficulty. Seeing him agree, A flash of sharp delight and smug satisfaction flickered in Li Siyuan's eyes. 3. Having witnessed firsthand the hard, thorny path Lin Yan had struggled to make his way through, I couldn't help but smile. I was just in a cheerful mood, about to head back to the dorm, when Li Siyuan, who had still had tears in her eyes moments before, suddenly shouted something that froze me in place. Sorry, Lin Yan, I know what I'm doing might hurt you, but I don't want to hold you back either. How could someone like me, who came into this halfway, compare to the childhood sweetheart who grew up by your side? I don't want to wait until after we've gotten married and are together for you to realize that the one you truly love is your childhood sweetheart. Then I'd be the sinner in your love life. I don't want to bear that kind of evil, so, please forgive my arrogance. You'll understand someday. And, there are some things I don't even know whether I should say, she finished through sobs, then looked at me with tear-filled eyes and said, doesn't she like you too? She used to be running after you all the time, always unable to leave your side. I actually wanted to say something many times, but you always said it was fine, so I knew who the person you truly loved was. You two are the real perfect match, mutually in love. Now, stepping aside for you two is just right. As soon as she said that, everyone who had been looking at her and Lin Yan immediately turned their eyes toward us in unison. I let out a cold laugh. What a Li Siyuan. She clearly saw Lin Yan's illness herself and grew disgusted by it, and now she's even found such a high-sounding excuse. I let out a cold laugh. Li Siyuan, if you're not sure whether something should be said, then don't say it. You can eat whatever you want, but don't go spouting nonsense. You say I was running around after Lin Yan all day, then show me the proof. I'm in charge of a ton of clubs, and 80% of my free time every day is spent managing them. I can barely keep up as it is. Where would I find the time to keep circling around one man? As for you saying I like him and can't live without him, what a joke. I pulled out my visa and admission letter and looked at her with a frosty gaze. Sorry, but I'm about to go study abroad. Once I said that, all the rumors Li Siyuan had spread were immediately exposed as false, and the looks and comments that had been aimed at me were instantly thrown back at her, louder and harder than before. Li Siyuan, who had seemed so composed just moments ago, instantly went bright red. She stammered a few times, but in the end she couldn't come up with any defense and could only blush furiously before turning and running off. With one person gone, the crowd watching the drama naturally began to disperse. Lin Yan turned to look at me, inching closer step by step with a lifted foot. Noticing his movement, I immediately backed away. My unhidden reaction stabbed him straight through the heart. Lin Yan, still painfully inching toward me with one foot raised, stopped in place. He looked at me from afar, his eyes glistening with tears. You don't want me either. This was the first time I realized Lin Yan could be this shameless, carrying memories from 2 lifetimes. He clearly remembered exactly what he had done to me last time, and yet he could still say something so innocent and pitiful. I really had been blinded by lard before. The scheming Li Siyuan who framed me is no good, but Lin Yan is even more disgusting. I took a few steps back again, put away what I was holding and slipped it into my bag casually, and said, don't say such disgusting things. I never wanted you. Hearing that, Lin Yan's eyes turned red, his tears poured down like they were free, and he broke down sobbing without caring how he looked. I'm sorry, Shiyu, I was blind to a good person. Before, I misunderstood you. It was all my fault. I'm a beast. But I've finally come to my senses now. I know just how terribly wrong I was before. I know you hate me, but could you? I'm not asking you to forgive me, and I'm not asking you to marry me. I'm only begging you. Could you not leave? I won't cling to you. You don't have to run off to a foreign country just to get away from me. I was almost stunned by Lin Yan's shamelessness. Just listen to him. He made it sound like he was only thinking of my best interests, but I'm not that naive anymore after living decades longer than I did in my past life. He said he wasn't asking me to forgive him, and that by putting himself in a lower position and not insisting that I marry him, he was giving me the choice, but in reality, he was still thinking about Li Siyuan and wanted her to leave a place for him, and at the same time, he was afraid she wouldn't leave him a place or a chance, so he wanted me to stay in the country and be ready to pick up the pieces for him. Honestly, after suffering for so many years in my past life, I've never felt so disgusted with Lin Yan at any point. This was the same man I used to like when I was a girl, and now he was this disgusting. I had absolutely no patience left to hear him finish. Raising my eyebrows, I looked at him with a smile and said, Lin Yan, at this point, do you still think I look like an idiot? Not a single word of what you just said. I believe none of it. I lifted my wrist and looked at the sparkling watch on my hand, a faint smile tugging at the corners of my lips, and said, "And don't say things like whether I hate you or not, or that I'll always remember you, that's disgusting." Got it. Lin Yan was dealt a huge blow by those words. He looked at me, utterly dazed and disheartened. "Why are you so cold and heartless? After all these years together, do you really not feel anything for me at all?" Feelings, no matter how much there was, they'd been worn away over all those years together. It's been so many days since I was reborn. Even if I haven't brought it up, that doesn't mean I don't remember. Love, you call it love when you propose to me with nothing but an empty-handed, empty-pocketed version of yourself. Love is getting married and then using the excuse that the caregiver wasn't doing a good job, so you made me, barely more than a kid, take on the job of wiping shit and urine and doing all the dirty, backbreaking work. Love is stopping me from going home to see my parents. It's not giving me any living expenses and still expecting me to take care of the house. It's when I got sick and needed money for medicine, and you refused to give it to me, but then rushed off to take care of some other woman. It's when I asked for a divorce, and you mocked me and cruelly tied me to your side. If that's love, then there's too much of it, I said coldly, my voice slow and measured. As for what kind it is, that's hard to say. My words clearly made Lin Yan, who had been recalling what had happened, feel a little embarrassed. But he still didn't give up and looked at me with hopeful eyes. But now we both have our memories back, don't we? I understand now. I know who truly loves me. I know you were the one who saved my life. I know that whether or not you kissed me, whether or not there were rumors, whether or not my parents invited you to dinner, Lee Si-Yuan, who has seen me during an episode, could never be with me. She's vain, she's materialistic, and she looks down on me completely. She's the one who ruined me. She can't compare to you at all. I've finally seen my own heart clearly, and I know the person I truly love is you. Do you know that, when she turned me down, I wasn't even heartbroken, but when you said you had never wanted me and that the thing you regretted most was ever liking me, it felt like my heart was being torn to pieces. I know I've done a lot of wrong, but if you give me a chance, I'll change and make it up to you. Okay, look, I've already faced my feelings honestly. Your parents like me, and my parents like you too. We're the most suitable pair. If we get a second chance, even heaven is trying to make it up to us and give us this opportunity. I'll be twice as good to you. I'll treat your parents like my own. I'll do everything I can to make it up to you. Please forgive me. Okay, if you still blame me, then hit me once, yell at me once. Okay. After hearing all that, I finally saw him for exactly who he really was. It was just so disgusting I wanted to throw up. I let out a cold laugh. You think you're worthy of me? I stabbed right at the thing he cared about most. In your condition now, a single hit or even one slap would be enough to knock you out cold. What kind of idiot would want to be with you? With that, I turned and walked away without a second thought, for Lu Shiyu left, and never came back. It was only then that Lin Yan realized Lu Shiyu had been serious when he said he was disgusted with him and was going abroad to study, not just putting on an act. Why had he to be so heartless? Could years of feelings really be thrown away so easily? Panicking, he called Lu Shiyu's father and mother. He knew uncle and auntie had always liked him and would surely forgive him and speak up for him, but this time, he had miscalculated. None of his calls got through. When he went home, he found that the place had long since been emptied out. By then, Lin Yan finally understood completely that Lu Shiyu really did not want him anymore, and that there was no chance left for the two of them at all. Why couldn't he even be given a chance to make things right? In despair, Lin Yan started drinking himself into a stupor every day, and his temper grew more and more irritable. At that time, Lee Si-Yuan, who had once married the rich second-generation student council president, was cheated on again, abused, and left with nothing. Just like in her previous life, she pitifully came to Lin Yan for help, but Lee Si-Yuan, who knew nothing at all, had no idea that Lin Yan was no longer the Lin Yan from the beginning, the one who had always gone along with him. He pressed her. Didn't you think I liked Lu Shiyu? Then why did you come to me when you had nowhere else to go? There are plenty of hotels outside. Driven back step by step by him until her face turned deathly pale, Lee Si-Yuan anxiously explained, but I still think of you as a friend. Lin Yan let out a derisive laugh, his gaze icy. You were the one who said we should keep our distance, Lee Si-Yuan mumbled, but before she could finish, Lin Yan cut her off again with a cold sneer. You said you'd treat me like a friend, but during the years you were married, you didn't contact me once or even bother to say hello. Cornered and unable to keep up the act, Lee Si-Yuan threw caution to the wind and shouted at him, What the hell are you pretending for? You think you're a dog in front of me or something? I'm asking you to help me because I'm giving you face, otherwise, I wouldn't even want a useless piece of trash like you licking my shoes, and now you're acting all high and mighty, don't you even look around, besides me, who else would want you, Luciu? Ha, she's too busy keeping a pretty boy on the side now, how could she even remember a sickly wreck like you? Those words instantly hit Lin Yan's raw nerve. He immediately lunged at Li Siyuan, beating and kicking her without holding back, and Li Siyuan refused to back down. Fighting back just as hard, one was a frail invalid, the other a pampered lady of leisure, and in the end both were left badly hurt. Lin Yan was beaten into a half-paralyzed state, while Li Siyuan's face was cut up. On top of that, she was facing prison and compensation. She had already walked away with nothing, so she had no money to pay. If she wanted to avoid compensation and get less jail time, she needed Lin Yan to sign a letter of forgiveness. Lying in the hospital bed, Lin Yan, no longer the cheerful man he once was, fixed a sullen stare on the disfigured Li Siyuan and let out a cold laugh. Sign the letter of understanding. Fine, marry me, marry him. Lin Yan's family had already blown through most of their money because of his drinking and gambling, and his parents had been driven to the point of stroke and paralysis by him. Add him into the mix, and there were 3 paralyzed people in the family. On top of that, there was no steady income. Might as well go to prison. Li Siyuan immediately backed down. In the end, she was sentenced to 10 years in prison, while Lin Yan became an even more despondent, useless wreck. He could no longer even drink, and could only spend his days slumped in a wheelchair. In a daze, the only thing that could rouse him a little was the occasional news report on TV about Lu Xiu. After studying abroad for 4 years, she graduated early with outstanding grades, returned home to launch her own brand, and became a role model for countless women. She created tens of thousands of jobs, always leading the way in both philanthropy and the defense of rights and interests. Her 30th year in this life was completely different from the impoverished, humiliated 30th year of her previous life, radiant and dazzling, adored by countless people, interviewed by the media, with the spotlight shining because of her. She lived life on her own terms and became the brightest sun in the sky, while he could only rot in the mud. So that was it, coming back for a second chance wasn't to bring the two of them back together, but to let her live out a brand new life. Lin Yan let out a mocking smile. He had it coming. Shocking. A paralyzed young man literally starves to death. Come in and find out what happened. A browser pop-up appeared again with a cover image. My gaze, which had only briefly glanced at it, froze, but the next second, I calmly closed the news article. They were just someone who lingered a little longer than the countless other passers-by in life. Once you've moved past that chapter and looked ahead, you'll realize they were nothing more than that. End of full text. That wraps up the first story. Don't go away. The next one is even more exciting. I couldn't have a child for 5 years after getting married, and then my husband, the regiment commander, brought home his pregnant childhood sweetheart, who was 4 months along. I divorced without hesitation and turned around to marry a wealthy man from the coast. In the first year after my marriage, the news that I was pregnant made its way back to my hometown. My ex-husband came to my door, looking haggard. That can't be real, right? I gently stroked my rounded belly, my expression calm. Why wouldn't it be? Maybe you should reflect on yourself. After all these years, have you really been able to perform? Otherwise, who knows whose child you've been so happy to raise? His expression was wild. He had completely fallen apart in just a few days. The news that Gu Minghui and I were divorcing had spread all over the county town. Everyone knew I was a top manager at the textile factory, turning old cloth into something marketable year after year at the supply and marketing cooperative. And I wasn't bad looking either. Gu Minghui, even more so, was a standout in the cultural troupe, able to sing and dance, handsome, and with a bright future ahead of him. To everyone else, we were such a well-matched couple, successful in our careers, courteous and respectful to each other, and hailed as the county's model husband and wife. How did things end up like this? The neighbors all whispered behind my back that I was a fool, while Gu Minghui hated me for being heartless and leaving no room for compromise. The moment he finally signed his name on the divorce agreement, I was overcome with a mix of emotions, so many feelings tangled together, that in the end it all turned into a soft sigh, leaving only relief behind. Gu Minghui couldn't exactly be called a completely despicable man. Even now that we've come to the point of divorce, I'm still willing to judge him fairly. When I first found myself transported into this strange 1980s world, I never expected to find a happy marriage, not until I met Gu Minghui. I was a restless woman who had crossed into a novel. I didn't like being trapped in four walls doing factory work. I'd rather ride my bicycle around the county town, exploring every corner and taking in the lively, everyday atmosphere of the era. Gu Minghui was the kind of gifted man everyone in the county knew about. As the head of the cultural troupe, he had received professional arts training and excelled at everything. We met just as I had only just arrived in this world that year. That day, I borrowed a heavy old bicycle from the factory and rode out alone for the first time to explore the county town. Everything along the way felt fresh and fascinating. Candied hawthorns were fascinating, street performances were fascinating, and even the young man selling paintings by the roadside was fascinating. I listened to stand-up comedy at a tea house, ate spicy hot pot from a street stall, and gave the few yuan I had on me to the young man who was selling paintings to help support his family. Then I wobbled along on my bike, swaying from the east end of the street to the west until I crashed straight into the person coming toward me, and the one I hit was Gu Minghui. Gu Minghui had just turned 20 then, dressed in a crisp navy Zhongshan suit, with a refined face that carried a touch of literary flair. His handsome face was full of surprise, but there wasn't the slightest trace of blame that my bicycle had dirted his clothes. Gu Minghui looked at the bicycle, then at me, flustered over the handlebars, and laughed. Back then you were wearing a red headscarf, with a round little face, looking just like a freshly made candied apple. The Gu Minghui of later years often told me. I remember thinking then, you must be as sweet and tangy as a candied hawthorn skewer. My heart secretly warmed, but I kept my composure. I had known Gu Minghui for 5 years. In that time, he took me to shows and told me stories. At 25, Gu Minghui confessed his feelings for me a year after I started working at the textile mill. My feelings were complicated, both joy and worry, like a tender sprout just emerging in early spring, cautiously testing the warmth of the sun. I understand what you're worried about, Gu Minghui said with a smile. I'm telling you, you don't need to worry. I looked up in surprise. Did he really understand me? I'm not the type to be fickle. A few days ago, I was even talking with the factory leaders, saying that a fine young woman like you shouldn't be confined to traditional restraints. My heart gave a sudden jolt. I had never directly told anyone about my desire for independence after marriage, yet he understood me so well. Qinghe, you don't have to wrong yourself. If I marry you, I will respect your freedom all the same. If you marry me, I will treat you with the utmost respect, stand by your side for life, and never let you down. He held out his hand to me, a gentle smile on his face. Do you trust me? Should I trust him? My eyes stung slightly. I thought back to all those years in the song and dance troupe, and how there had never been a whisper of scandal around Gu Minghui. In the arts world, that was no small thing. I remembered how, whenever other girls were held back by family obligations, Gu Minghui always supported me in pursuing my dream of becoming a designer. I thought of every little moment we'd shared over these past 5 years. A promise is worth 1,000 taels of gold. If he dared to make the promise, why shouldn't I dare to believe it? I came from an ordinary family and was my parents' only child. I was always expected to achieve great things. The farewell banquet held the year I officially started working at the textile mill in the county town left such a lasting impression that the whole neighborhood remembered it for years. When the banquet ended, Gu Minghui, dressed neatly in a Zhongshan suit, solemnly asked my parents for my hand in marriage in full view of everyone. He wrote out a vow on the spot to stay with me for life, through thick and thin. It was an unprecedented romantic gesture in a small county town, and it drew a chorus of astonished gasps. Everyone was singing the praises of Gu, the head of the county cultural troupe, for his heartfelt confession of love and how he eventually won the heart of the textile mill's gifted beauty. Dressed in a bright red wedding gown, I married Gu Minghui in grand style amid the blessings of my relatives and friends. For 5 years after our marriage, we looked like the perfect couple in everyone else's eyes. Gu Minghui kept his promise and stayed away from other women. I also softened many of my edges for this marriage, learning to understand the demands of his career and trying my best to play the role of a proper wife to a man. In the arts and cultural work, I devoted myself to caring for the family, always acting with grace and propriety, leaving no room for anyone to gossip. On the surface, everything seemed flawless. Being childless for 5 years has been a constant pain in my heart. It is also my greatest regret. For 5 years, I tried all kinds of folk remedies, saw specialists at the county hospital and the regional hospital, and endured the pointing fingers and whispered judgment of my mother-in-law and relatives. I'd also seen the worried look in my mom's eyes, as if she wanted to say something but held back. I kept telling myself that medicine in the world of the book was still undeveloped, so the problem might not lie with me. I just had to stay optimistic. But whenever I was alone late at night, looking at Gu Minghui sleeping soundly, a wave of bitterness would still rise in my heart. In the summer of our 5th year of marriage, Gu Minghui took a troop south on tour. News from him came only sporadically. In June, he set out full of hope. It was already October, and my husband, far away in the south, would be coming home soon. With red-rimmed eyes, I looked at Mom sitting across from me. Chinghe, don't push yourself so hard, talk it through properly when he gets back. I nodded absent-mindedly. During this time, I had also come to understand a few things. I'm only 23 this year. Let's wait a little longer. Let's try for 2 more years. If we still don't have a child after 2 years, I won't force it anymore. I'll accept reality. Carry on the family line. Sigh, you silly child. Mom wiped the corner of her eye. A woman's life is bound to have its ups and downs. You're already luckier than many people. Yeah, that's what everyone around me kept telling me. The day Gu Minghui came home, a fine drizzle drifted over the county town. I stood at the gate in a newly bought red trench coat, waiting. Gu Minghui had lost a lot of weight, and his once handsome face looked even more gaunt when he saw me standing in the rain. His eyes lit up and his expression softened. I watched him stride over, pull me under the eaves, and chide me softly. It's raining this hard, and you still didn't bring an umbrella. What if you catch a cold? What if you catch a cold? Feeling the warmth of his palm, I held his hand back. I wanted to see you sooner. Come inside. Gu Minghui's expression suddenly turned complicated, and he turned to look at the van slowly pulling up behind him. My heart sank. When he left, he went by train with the rest of the troop. The rain was getting heavier and heavier, falling like a broken string of pearls. Gu Minghui's hair and shoulders were completely soaked. I saw the car door open, and someone carefully helped a young woman out. I saw the woman's noticeably swollen belly. I saw the panic on Gu Minghui's face, his lips moving as if he were trying to explain something. I saw the raindrops still falling from the sky, striking my already icy heart. It hurt so much. The room was filled with the sandalwood incense Gu Minghui loved most. It was already late. When I opened my eyes, I saw Gu Minghui sitting by the bed, holding a bowl of hot soup. Seeing that I was awake, he hurried to help me sit up, carefully tested the temperature of the soup, and brought it to my lips. How many months along are you? I had never heard my own voice sound so cold. Gu Minghui's eyes were red, and his lips trembled slightly. When I was performing down south, I came down with a serious illness. Yutong took care of me. She's a doctor at the hospital there and looked after me very attentively. Me, how many months along are you? Gu Minghui forced out an ugly smile. She used to live across the hall from my family when she was little. I always treated her like a younger sister. After she moved away, we lost contact. I never expected to run into her this time. She's had a hard life all these years. How many months along are you? The soup bowl in Gu Minghui's hand trembled slightly as he looked at me intently. Chinghe, don't do this. I'm scared. I looked at him and couldn't help but let out a cold laugh. He's scared. I snatched the bowl of soup and slammed it hard onto the floor. You're scared. Gu Minghui, what are you afraid of? Do you think I'm an idiot? That woman's belly is so big, she must be at least 4 months along. 4 months, Gu Minghui, you've kept this from me so well. I looked at the cardboard box on the bedside table, where all the letters Gu Minghui and I had exchanged over the past 6 months were neatly stacked. I snatched up the letters and slapped them across his face. How could he? Every letter you wrote was full of how much you missed me, and all the while you were sneaking around with another woman. Gu Minghui, how disgusting can you get? I didn't mess around with her. It only happened that one time. He frantically picked up the scattered letters, as if trying to salvage something. I looked at the letters soaked through with soup on the floor and said softly, don't bother picking them up, they're all dirty. Gu Minghui stopped moving. After a long silence, he slowly picked them up again. That teacher Sue is already more than 4 months pregnant. I heard from Shaoli in the cultural troupe that when Captain Gu fell ill down south, she was the one who took care of him the whole time. They say it happened the night he got drunk. Xiao Zhang, who was close to me at the factory, said to me in a low voice, they say group leader Gu and that woman weren't all that close, but after all, they grew up together, and her family had run into trouble, so she wanted to. If she hadn't gotten pregnant, Commander Gu had originally planned to send her back to her hometown. He only brought her back after he found out she was expecting. Sister Chinghe, Commander Gu has wanted a child so badly. Don't say any more. I set down the teacup in my hand, now cold through and through. I heard Commander Gu didn't sleep a wink last night. He spent the whole night in his study sorting through your letters, even the ones you tore up, he glued back together piece by piece. I looked up at Xiao Zhang, who was still rambling. What exactly are you trying to say? Seeing how pale I looked, Xiao Zhang quickly sat down beside me. Sister Qinghe, what I mean is, that woman doesn't amount to much. The one Commander Gu cares about most is still you, even if she has a child. The child will still take your surname, and will have to call you mom someday. Besides, sis, you already can't have children. The rain outside was still falling. My heart felt as though it had been soaked through with ice water. So cold it hurt. A wave of overwhelming grief surged through me. I was never able to have children in the first place. Everyone thought so. My mom said the same thing when she came to see me this morning. Anyway, you said it yourself. If waiting another 2 years still doesn't work, then forget it. This is just accepting reality a little earlier. It's all the same, child. Now that Gu Minghui feels guilty, my eyes burned, and tears spilled over. It's not the same. How could it be the same? Gu Minghui, I think we should get divorced. I looked at Gu Minghui, whose face had gone pale before me. These past few days, he'd been holed up in the rehearsal room, sorting through the letters and photos I had torn to pieces. Letters and photos. Qinghe, don't make a hasty decision. I'm not being hasty. This is a decision I've thought through carefully. I studied the husband who had once made my heart race. He was the partner I had carefully chosen, the man who had promised himself to me in front of everyone in the county. We were so happy when we got married. Now the pain cuts just as deep. It's just a child, just that one accident. Gu Minghui looked at me in disbelief. Does it really have to come to this? Minghui, we've been married for 5 years, you've always been good to me, and you never cheated, but I still haven't been able to give you a child, and over these years, you've had to bear a lot of pressure and criticism. I've never blamed you, but I can't live with myself. I cut off his frantic explanation. I'm really tired. I'm sick of the bitter taste of those Chinese herbal decoctions, sick of waiting each month only to be disappointed. I'm exhausted. He opened his mouth, but his usually bright, easygoing voice had gone hoarse. I don't agree to the divorce. I got up and walked to the table, picked up the pen and the divorce agreement. You're the head of the song and dance troupe, and someone has to carry on your talent. I can't give you a child, and now someone else can have one for you. I truly am happy for you. After a long silence, he finally spoke, his voice heavy with sorrow. Just because of this unborn child, you're really going to break up with me? Your mother already told me, you originally planned to wait another 2 years, and if there still wasn't a child, you'd accept reality. Qinghe, now it's only happening sooner. Isn't that okay? His eyes were full of pleading as he looked at me, and his voice was filled with pain. Just this one child, just this once. After the baby is born, we'll raise it together, and you won't have to go through those exhausting hospital checkups anymore either. Ma, let the 3 of us live a good life together. Okay. I looked into his pleading eyes and suddenly remembered how solemnly he had sworn on our wedding day. Minghui, are the problems between us really as simple as just one woman and one child? I looked at him calmly, my voice heavy with deep disappointment. That Ms. Sue of yours is already 4 months pregnant. We've been exchanging letters every week, so why have you never mentioned it? He went pale, his throat bobbing, but no words came out. You don't dare tell me. I've got co-workers from my textile mill all the way down south too. You kept this under wraps remarkably well. You're afraid I'll hurt her. I let out a cold laugh. See, you're not indifferent to that woman at all. You're afraid I'll hurt her and the child. I laid bare the cruel truth, word for word. Gu Minghui, the moment you found out that child existed, you stopped trusting me. Gu Minghui's face turned deathly pale in an instant. I set the completed divorce agreement on the table. Gu Minghui still hadn't signed the divorce agreement. He started avoiding me, as if everything would go back to how it was as long as we just didn't face the problem. But I had already run out of patience. Divorce was a big deal in the county. I brushed off all the gossip and, armed with the written promise Gu Minghui had made back then, went straight to the County Women's Federation and the leaders at his workplace. A week later, the troupe sent a notice, divorce approved. Let's end this marriage. I took out the yellowed agreement, along with the divorce certificate I had just obtained, and placed them in front of Gu Minghui. Gu Minghui's eyes were red, and his once handsome face was now etched with pain and anger. He hadn't expected me to be so resolute. I hadn't expected it either. After 5 years of knowing each other and 5 years of marriage, we would end up here. So even youthful vows and promises of eternal love can't withstand the coldness of reality such as fate. Every cuz has its effect. I pushed the divorce papers toward him. This is the 5th time. if you still won't sign, I'll go straight to court and sue. Don't push me, Gu Minghui ground his teeth, his hand shaking so badly he didn't dare take the little red booklet, sign your name, stamp your fingerprint, and let this end with dignity. It's the least we owe the 5 years we were married. I firmly pushed the document forward again and said nothing more. We had once been lovers who told each other everything, but in the end we became strangers with nothing left to say. In just a few days, news of Gu Minghui and me getting divorced had spread throughout the whole county. Everyone knew Luo Qinghe was a talented young woman, outstanding at her job and kind-hearted. Gu Minghui was also a key figure in the county's cultural scene, gifted in many areas, with a promising future ahead of him. We had once been the model couple everyone admired, deeply in love and treating each other with the utmost respect. How had things ever come to this? The neighbors all said I was foolish, and Gu Minghui also blamed me for being cold and heartless. The moment he finally signed his name on the divorce papers, my feelings were too complicated to put into words, a mix of joy and sorrow, which in the end became nothing more than a soft sigh, and all that was left was relief. As spring festival arrived, during this time of reunion and celebration, I returned to the textile factory's dormitory. My mother came to see me and cried in my arms for a while. Thankfully, my parents had always supported me and given me something to rely on, so I didn't have to care too much about the criticism and gossip from the outside world. In the second month after I got divorced and returned to the textile mill, I heard that the female teacher had given birth to a boy. That day, I was riding my newly bought old-style bicycle, speeding freely along the asphalt road on the outskirts of the city. I pedaled hard, and the wind lifted my red scarf, as if it were carrying away all my worries and pain. Oh, a faint cry came from behind me. I quickly braked and turned back. A young man was crouched on the ground, gathering up scattered documents and account books, while beside him stood a tall man in a neat suit. That man, at that moment, he was looking at me with a smile. My face flushed at once, and I hurried off the bike to go over and help. I'm terribly sorry. Did I stain your materials, Miss Luo? Please don't mind it. We've been seeing you ride along this road every few days this month. It was we who chose an unsuitable place to stop. Huh. I looked at him in confusion. How did he know me, although I'd been coming here lately to ride my bike and clear my head? Only a few close sisters at the factory knew about it. And how did he find out? Oh, I forgot to introduce myself. I'm Lin Yubai. I run a small processing factory by the coast, and I occasionally come to the county seat to discuss business. He gave a slight nod in greeting, composed and graceful, with an air of distinction. Lin Yubai from the coast. My mind raced, and my eyes suddenly widened. That young entrepreneur from the seaside town who's been making a name for himself lately. A small processing factory, if I remember correctly. He even appeared in an interview on our county TV station. I remember him because a gentle smile spread across his face. That's right, the little factory they interviewed last month for the county TV station's special on township enterprises. That TV interview last month was also right when I'd just finished my divorce paperwork. The last time I caught a glimpse of you riding your bike was on the road by the textile mill. I froze. Then it came back to me. That day, I had meant to go see the new fabric samples that had just arrived at the factory, but instead I ran into Gu Minghui and his teacher Su walking past the factory gate. That was also the day I made up my mind to let go of the past once and for all and start my life over. That day, I asked myself, do you dare choose again? I said, yes, I do. Things had changed, and people were no longer the same. I smiled politely, said goodbye to Lin Yubai, and rode my bike back to the city. After that, Lin Yubai often showed up near the textile factory, sometimes to discuss a cooperative project, sometimes to deliver fabric samples. He'd even bring me some local specialties from the coast from time to time. I was no longer the naive little girl I'd once been. Holding the gift he had given me, I understood what it meant. To some extent, the women at the factory were all jeering and making a scene for the fun of it. In a county town in the 1980s, remarrying after a divorce was nothing unusual, but a single woman was all too easily dogged by gossip. I had long been prepared for the day I might remarry, but I never expected it to be someone like Lin Yubai. But I really didn't want to get tangled up with any more prominent families or celebrities. Although Lin Yubai came from an ordinary background, he is now a well-known millionaire in the area, with real wealth to his name. Barely in his early 30s, he had already founded his own export processing company. A village boy who started from scratch, with no connections, relying only on his own brains and hard work, managed within a few years to achieve what most people would never accomplish in a lifetime. A man like that must be very calculating. Why would he ever take a fancy to a woman like me? Divorced and unable to have children, my failed marriage has already made me wary. I had no idea what Lin Yabai talked about with the factory leadership. A few days later, I ran into Lin Yabai again at the entrance of the county cultural center. His expression was calm, but there was a complicated look in his eyes when he looked at me, so I decided to just come right out and say it. He listened quietly as I finished explaining why I was turning him down, still wearing that broad, good-natured smile. Seeing you at the TV station that day wasn't the first time I'd seen you, he said, his voice tinged with a hint of reminiscence, but I'll never forget that moment, while all the other colleagues were nervously preparing for the interview. There you were, in a bright red dress, flying past the window on a bicycle. Right then, I thought, that's exactly how this girl should be, free and unrestrained, like the wind, never the type to bow to pressure or settle for compromise. You didn't notice me that day, and I thought to myself that I'd have to find a way to make you notice me someday, but after that, I never saw you ride with that same carefree joy again. My heart gave a sudden jolt. Not long after that, I married Gu Minghui and started learning how to be a supportive wife to the head of the cultural troupe. How could I still be that carefree, Luo Qinghe? I deliberately waited for you on this road that day, and I also deliberately had my assistant drop the materials on the ground. He looked at me with open, unguarded eyes. I was really happy to see you riding a bike again. It would have been even better if you had stopped on your own. So you set up this chance encounter, so I orchestrated this meeting. I looked at Lin Yabai, and in his eyes, I actually saw an emotion that was truly different. Gu Minghui has known you for 5 years, but I've known you for 20. His voice was a little choked with emotion. I'm not the only one who's by your side. I stared at him in shock. He's known me for 20 years. He seemed to be holding back some emotion, and a faint sheen of tears appeared in his eyes. The first time you came to the county town that year, you met not only Gu Minghui, but me as well. Actually, I was the first one you met. I stared into his tear-bright eyes, searching this plain face for traces of the past. The boy who sold his paintings to pay for his father's medical treatment. I gave him every last bit of money I had and told him to hurry home and care for his gravely ill father. It's me. He gave a warm smile. Since that day, I've been watching you. I watched you ride your bike, living happily in this county town. I watched you be courted, get married in style, and even after marriage, your smiles grew fewer and fewer each day. He bent down and picked up a wooden box beside him, filled with all kinds of old and new things. There was a faded design draft, unopened imported sewing thread, and silk scarves and hair accessories in different styles. That time the factory held a clothing design contest. You weren't able to take part. I saw the regret in your eyes and guessed you must have had so many ideas with nowhere to show them. After the contest, I brought that entry booklet back. Yes, in the second year after I married Gu Minghui, the factory held a design competition. I really wanted to join, but Gu Minghui felt that the wife of the brigade captain shouldn't be too high profile, and the doctor also said I should focus on trying to conceive and avoid staying up late. I could only sit properly in the audience and be a dignified spectator. These years, every time I went to the coast, I'd buy any good sewing materials I found and bring them back to collect, thinking you'd definitely like them. Whenever I went on business trips, I'd bring back silk scarves and hair accessories in different styles, imagining that one day I could give them to you. Every time he took out an item, it felt like he was telling the story of a dream and a loss I'd kept hidden deep in my heart. My heart suddenly ached unbearably. I had been married to Gu Minghui for a full 5 years. Over these 5 years, Lin Yabai had quietly been collecting in a corner I knew nothing about, all those regrets and wishes of mine that no one understood. My eyes turned red as I looked at him. Do you only feel this way because of those few yuan back then? He gave a gentle smile, his voice a little choked up. Luo Qinghe, I'm already in my 30s. I can tell the difference between gratitude and love. I've been divorced. I'm a second marriage woman everyone in the county knows about. I took a deep breath. Being with me would definitely mean facing a lot of gossip. I know better than anyone that you've been divorced. He said it word by word. You should know the doctor said I might not be able to have children. After a moment of silence, he suddenly said, I wasn't originally called Lin Yabai. What? I was an orphan to begin with, no surname, no family name to carry on. His expression turned serious. I'm not going to make you any grand vows. After my last marriage, I know you won't believe them so easily. A promise. I just want to Say this, I've lived on my own for so many years, and I've never felt that I absolutely had to have children of my own. So you're not named Lynn? I stared at him, dumbfounded. I'm called Lynn because on the day we first met, the painting you bought from me had a grove of trees in it. He smiled and pulled a small yellowed scrap of paper from his pocket. That was a corner of a bamboo grove. I looked at the yellowed sheet of drawing paper in his palm. 20 years had passed, and the edges were worn, the colors badly faded. At that moment, he held the paper in his hand as if it were a priceless treasure. It felt as though my heart, too, could sense the warmth of his palm and the care with which he held it. I'm not like Gu Minghui, Luo Qinghe. Can you give me a chance? I looked at Lin Yabai standing before me. His gaze was sincere and unflinching as he met my eyes. He really was completely different from Gu Minghui all this time. He had quietly watched over me from places I didn't even know about. This self-made, successful entrepreneur, a major figure in the coastal business world, had been foolishly waiting alone for me for all these years. How many 20 years can a person have in a lifetime? He knew what I liked, understood my hurt, respected my principles, and remembered all my dreams and regrets. How could I not be moved by this? My voice trembling slightly, I asked my last question. How could you have known this day would come? What if I had never parted ways with Gu Minghui? He pressed his lips together, and in his deep eyes, determination and loneliness flickered. I don't know, I just kept watching you. If he treats you well, I'll keep silently blessing you from the shadows. If he doesn't treat you well, I'll do everything I can to bring you to my side. By the time he finished speaking, a note of determination had crept into his voice, faintly revealing the bold resolve of someone ready to take on the world. A light drizzle had begun outside the cultural center, and it felt as though the dust in my heart had been washed clean by the rain as well. I took a brand new design draft out of the wooden crate and walked toward the door. My mom may not be able to accept it right away. If you could win over my parents. I opened the draft and smiled at him, giving a little wave in the soft drizzle. Then come to the family housing compound and talk to my parents. The progress of my marriage to Lin Yabai was going very smoothly. He had waited silently for 20 years, and now he had finally gotten what he wanted. He was practically dying to let everyone know I was about to become his wife. I was a divorced woman, but he didn't care about any of that at all. He wanted me to become the envy of everyone in the county, to marry him in style and let me regain my confidence and become that fearless version of myself. The famously wealthy coastal family was getting married, and my parents were determined to completely erase the shadow of my divorce. They pulled out all the stops and worked with Lin Yabai to plan a wedding that shook the whole county. They pulled out all the stops and worked with Lin Yabai to plan a wedding that shook the whole county. On our wedding night, Lin Yabai held me tightly in his arms, hot tears falling onto my shoulder. I've finally waited for this day, he murmured softly, though his dream had finally come true. His words were filled with bitterness. It feels like a lifetime ago. Married life really is as beautiful as a dream. Lin Yabai has given me a kind of freedom I've never had before. I no longer have to play the part of the perfect wife. I can study new clothing designs in the workshop, even if it means the house is piled high with fabric and sketches. I no longer have to swallow those awful traditional medicines. I can live life at my own pace, no longer bound by rigid rules and other people's opinions. In his free time, Lin Yabai would come with me on outings to the countryside. I'd ride my bike freely along the country lanes, while he brought homemade snacks. When I'd ridden myself tired, we'd share good food and laughter together. No one urged me to have a baby, and no one forced Lin Yabai to find another woman. We'd grow vegetables and flowers in the little courtyard, get covered in dirt together, and laugh our heads off. Everything was almost too beautiful to be real. It wasn't until the first year after our wedding that I found out I was pregnant. The moment the doctor announced the news, I could hardly believe my ears. How could I be pregnant? Lin Yabai carefully supported me, his face just as filled with disbelief. Tears fell onto the back of his hand one after another, and he fumbled in a flurry to wipe them away for me. I stroked my slightly swollen belly and burst into tears. All the criticism, the grievances, and the emotions I'd kept bottled up over the past 5 years finally broke free and came pouring out. After marrying Lin Yabai, we still had our fair share of gossip and whispers behind our backs. Some people said Lin Yabai must be blind to have married a divorced woman who couldn't have children, and the ugly remarks never seemed to stop. But Lin Yabai never let those words reach me, so I simply pretended I didn't know. I didn't care whether I could have children or not. I just felt sorry that Lin Yabai had to bear such unfounded accusations. We had already come to terms with the possibility that we might never have a child, yet, to my surprise, I became pregnant. I was fertile. News that the wife of the former troop leader, who had not conceived in 5 years and was now the wife of a coastal entrepreneur, was pregnant quickly spread throughout the entire county town. 6 months later, Gu Minghui insisted on seeing me. I sat in the corner of a small restaurant in the county town, looking at the haggard Gu Minghui before me. He looked at me with red-rimmed eyes and asked in a trembling voice, "This can't be real, can it?" I gently rested a hand on my swollen belly, my expression calm. "It's true, I'm pregnant." He suddenly knocked the teacup in front of him to the floor. "I don't believe it, it's the truth, Gu Minghui, I'm pregnant, I don't believe it." He nearly shouted the words, covering his face with both hands as tears slipped through his fingers. Why, just half a year, we were only half a year short," he muttered to himself, sobbing quietly, as if he were speaking to me, or punishing himself. A wave of bitterness rose in my heart too. Gu Minghui wasn't a bad person at heart. I hope that after we part ways, you can gather yourself, get back on your feet, keep using your artistic talent, and find a woman who truly loves you, build a happy family and grow old together in lasting love. Let go of the past and start over. I still remember the line I wrote in the divorce agreement. I sincerely hope he is doing well. Although I've heard that he still hasn't found someone new, I still hope he can leave the past behind and keep being the model of cultural and artistic excellence he has always been. If that hadn't happened, if we had just held on for another 6 months, would the ending have been completely different? His face was etched with pain and remorse, his voice thick with regret. It was as if a single answer from me could decide his fate. As I thought of the drizzling rain on the day he came back, and those painful days of struggle, I asked him word by word, "Gu Minghui, we were married for 5 years, and we never had a child, yet less than a year after I remarried, I became pregnant. Have you ever thought about whose problem it really was?" I got up to leave, and Lin Yabai, who had been waiting at the store entrance, carefully helped me onto the back of the bicycle. "Did you finish talking to him? You're pretty far along now, so don't go out much, and if you do, I need to be with you." Lin Yabai kept talking on, and I nodded gently. "We won't be seeing each other again." When I was 7 months pregnant, I heard that teacher Sue from the song and dance troupe had suddenly resigned and left. I also heard that the little boy, barely a month old, hadn't survived because he was so frail and sickly. I knew in my heart that Gu Minghui must have found something. Gu Minghui took the initiative to apply for a teaching transfer to the cultural troupe in a remote mountain area. He was punishing himself, but that had nothing to do with me anymore. The day before he left, he asked someone to arrange a meeting with me. I turned him down. That night, Lin Yibai came home. After drinking a little, a smug smile on his face. "That idiot Gu Minghui is regretting it to death, haha." I told him how happy we are, and he was absolutely heartbroken. Lin Yabai wore a somewhat boyish look of triumph on his face. "He used to make you so miserable, so I wanted him to know that we're now incredibly sweet and happy, and make him suffer a little. What happens to him now has nothing to do with us anymore." I pulled Lin Yabai over to the sofa and sat down, and he gently stroked my swollen belly. We held each other quietly for a while, and then Lin Yabai spoke again. "He really was a fool, no doubt about it. He threw away a wonderful wife like you just for a child that wasn't even his own. Good thing he was such a fool, otherwise, I wouldn't have had the chance to marry you." That night, nestled in Lin Yabai's arms, I couldn't help but ask him a question. "If you had been the one to face that situation back then, how would you have handled it?" Lin Yabai looked down at me, his expression serious. "Gu Minghui wanted too much. He wanted everything. He wanted a child, and he wanted to keep you too. When conflicts arose, he tried to smooth things over and avoid offending either side. Trying to have it both ways only means losing both. I won't be like that. I want you. You alone are enough for me." I listened quietly to the steady beat of his heart, then tipped my chin up and kissed it. I knew they were different people. He always stayed firm, wanting only me. 2 months later, I safely gave birth to a baby girl. Lin Yabai was overjoyed, like a child, and named his daughter Xiaohe. Every day he carried her around the courtyard, pacing back and forth like a total doting girl dad. On the day Xiaohe turned 1, she received a package sent from the south, containing a beautiful set of children's clothes. The dress was embroidered with a little girl riding a bicycle. I held the outfit in my hands and sat quietly in the room for a long while, looking at the exquisite embroidery, as if I could see Gu Minghui in the lonely night, carefully stitching every thread by hand. "Xiaohe is looking for mommy." Lin Yibai stood at the door holding his daughter, smiling at me. I casually put the clothes in the cabinet and got up to meet them, taking our daughter into my arms. Lin Yabai put an arm around my shoulders and we walked together toward the courtyard. Let's go see the new flowers we planted. Fate has its own timing. In this life, we met just when we were meant to. I have no regrets about the time I spent with Gu Minghui, but time flows like water, and people and circumstances change. Yesterday's laughter has already turned to mist, and the vows once made have become the past. I am very happy now. Finally, someone truly understands how I feel. Story 2. My boyfriend got me pregnant before marriage after we started living together. When his family came to discuss the betrothal gifts, he thought he had me in his control and humiliated and looked down upon me and my mother. On the wedding day, he refused to come to pick me up and demanded that I return the betrothal gifts and also provide a house and 5 commercial shops as a dowry. I couldn't bear it anymore. I really couldn't take it any longer. The next day, accompanied by my mother, I went to the hospital for an abortion. I put the aborted fetus in a foam box and sent it as a parcel to his doorstep. Soon after, he was diagnosed with azoospermia, which meant that the child might have been his last chance to have offspring in this life. At the hospital entrance, he cried loudly, "I was pregnant." Seeing the 2 lines on the pregnancy test stick, my heart couldn't help but flutter with panic. I quickly called Zhou Chen and told him the news. He was very excited after hearing it, but his enthusiasm cooled down when I mentioned getting married. Yao Yao, well, this matter isn't urgent. Not urgent. In a few months, my belly will get big. How can it not be urgent? Do you not want to take responsibility? I couldn't hold back the grievance in my heart. After graduation, I had been with Zhou Chen many times, but later, when we checked the condom with water, we found it was leaking. I suspected that he secretly pricked it with a needle in the bathroom, but he stubbornly refused to admit it. Later, I caught him taking off the condom secretly several times, so I could only take precautions on my own. I was extremely careful, but I never expected that I would still get pregnant. This time, Zhou Chen quickly said, "It's not that I don't want to take responsibility, baby, you know, marrying you is my biggest wish, but this pregnancy was so sudden, I have to discuss it with my parents." He coaxed me with a lot of sweet words. I thought it made sense, so I said obediently, "Then talk to uncle and aunt quickly and come to propose marriage." Okay. At this time, I still had expectations for Zhou Chen and our love, and I was quite confident that with my family's conditions, his family would definitely be satisfied. My family is based in the capital. Since I was a child, I've been known as a rich girl. My family is well off, although it's not as exaggerated as rumored. Our assets are still in the 9-digit range. We have all kinds of luxury cars like Ferraris and Aston Martins parked in the garage. So when Zhou Chen first came to my home, he was extremely shocked. After going back, he started to pursue me very passionately. I got together with him in my sophomore year of college, and we had been dating for 5 years. In these 5 years, he had taken meticulous care of me, providing me with high emotional value, which made me completely devoted to him. Although Zhou Chen came from a poor family and was admitted to our university from a poverty-stricken mountain area, he was optimistic, upward-spirited, and tenacious. Even though he received a national grant, he still worked part-time. His life was really difficult. For this reason, I gave him 80,000 yuan out of my 100,000 yuan monthly allowance. He was very touched and said that he would save this money and come to marry me after graduation. My father passed away early, and my mother runs a company and is very busy every day. For me, money wasn't the most important thing, love was, and every moment I spent with Zhou Chen, he gave me unique favor. Now, it was finally time for him to fulfill his promise and marry me, but I never expected that after that phone call, Zhou Chen never mentioned getting married again. Every time I brought it up, he would be very perfunctory and just brush it off, even saying, "Are you annoying?" I said, "We'll talk about it later. What else do you want?" Hanging up the phone, I felt really sad seeing that my belly was getting bigger and I couldn't hide it anymore. I finally made up my mind and told my mother. My mother was extremely shocked and demanded, "Is it the one I told you to break up with before?" I could only nod timidly. My mother knew about me and Zhou Chen before. After learning about his family background, she absolutely disagreed. She even hit me, locked me in a room, and left me on a hunger strike for 3 days without caring. I really couldn't hold on. On the surface, I told my mother that I had broken up with Zhou Chen, but in fact, I just couldn't let go. My mother was so angry that she hit me with a broom. Each strike hurt my heart deeply. Finally, she looked at my belly and said, "Sai, what can we do now? They're counting on your pregnancy to control you." The next day, she took me to his home to force the issue of marriage. Zhou Chen's parents seemed to have a good attitude at first. They were serving tea and showing their concern. My mother said directly, "No need to be so polite. In-laws, my daughter is pregnant, and she's determined to be with your son, so I respect her decision, but of course, you have to take responsibility, you can't let my daughter be with him without a proper name, right? Zhou Chen's mother said. Of course, as long as your family's dowry is sufficient, my mother said. Then let's talk about the betrothal gifts. Betrothal gifts. Zhou Chen's mother's expression turned stiff. Of course, how can you marry a daughter-in-law without giving betrothal gifts? Sensing the tense atmosphere, Zhou Chen quickly said, of course, Auntie, what amount do you think is appropriate? My mother said directly, 1 million. Zhou Chen's mother jumped up from the sofa and said, are you being too greedy? Look at our family's conditions, we're poor. 1 million, we have no money, only our lives. Actually, 1 million wasn't a large amount for me, and I had given most of my college living expenses to Zhou Chen. I knew he could definitely afford it. Unexpectedly, Zhou Chen directly said, Auntie, if you ask for such a high amount, then there's no point in talking. In our village, the most we give for a bride is 88,000 yuan. Yao Yao has been with me for so long. She's getting older, and she's pregnant now. 50,000 yuan, that's the most we can offer. Hearing this, I was in disbelief. A single Van Cleef and Arpels necklace of mine was worth more than 50,000 yuan. Zhou Chen, you said you wanted to marry me. Is this your so-called sincerity? Huh, what do you take me for? I'm not you can't do. Maybe I won't give birth to this child. Who cares about you? As soon as I said this, I immediately regretted it a bit, because I always said a lot of impulsive words when I was angry, but fortunately, this seemed to work. Zhou Chen became visibly anxious. Yao Yao, I was wrong, you absolutely can't get rid of the child, but this 1 million yuan amount is really too high, can it be lower? Finally, after negotiation between my mother and Zhou Chen's family, the betrothal gifts were set at 660,000 yuan. I was quite satisfied when we left, so I didn't hear the conversation between Zhou Chen and his mother in the kitchen. Son, your plan really worked, now they have to come to us, begging us to marry her. You've been dating her for these years, and our family has already gotten 1 or 2 million from her. It's all coming back to us. Great, but isn't this 660,000 yuan still too high? Mom, I have plenty of ways. In the end, I'll make her return every penny of this betrothal gift. Soon, his family sent the 660,000 yuan betrothal gift. My mother also hired professionals to arrange the wedding. Not asking his family to pay a single cent, my mother said to me, Yao Yao, do you know that in a relationship, the worst thing a girl can do is to only care about a man's kindness, because he can pretend for a while, but not forever. Sigh, things have come to this, Mom won't persuade you anymore. Although my mother was strict, she still respected my opinion. I said happily, Mom, it won't be like that. He said he would be good to me for a lifetime, but I never expected that on the wedding day. Zhou Chen didn't come to pick me up. I was sitting on the bed in my wedding dress as time passed by. The bridesmaids and the cameraman were all looking at me. Thank goodness the 8th call I made to Zhou Chen finally got through. Hello, Zhou Chen, why haven't you come yet? Did something happen on the way? At this time, I was still worried about him. Zhou Chen said, Yao Yao, it's okay, don't worry. I just suddenly feel that the betrothal gifts we gave are too much. As soon as I heard him say this, I had a bad feeling. Zhou Chen, 660,000 yuan might be a lot to marry other girls, but it's definitely not much to marry me. You know, when my best friend got married, the betrothal gifts were 8 million yuan, and there was also a 10 million yuan house and all kinds of gold jewelry. My friends all came from wealthy families like mine. The fact that I only had 660,000 yuan betrothal gifts had already made me a laughingstock in our circle, being called cheap, but I endured it and didn't complain to Zhou Chen at all. Just hoping for a perfect wedding. Zhou Chen interrupted me impatiently. Oh, right. They gave your best friend a grand wedding with a pigeon egg-sized diamond ring, but who asked you to choose me? I'm not capable enough to give you all that, so what do you want to do? Zhou Chen, people around were already whispering, the groom still hasn't come, is there a change in the wedding? Yao Yao is on the phone with the groom, why does she look so strange? I've seen her boyfriend, he doesn't match her at all, she insists on getting married, she'll definitely regret it sooner or later, not to mention later. Right now, with so many people watching, I already felt extremely embarrassed. I, who had always lived a life of luxury, had never been humiliated like this before. Zhou Chen said, Yao Yao, return the betrothal gifts, I'll make it up to you later. Okay. Alas, my mother was diagnosed with an illness a few days ago, treating it will cost a large sum of money. I really have no choice. My heart gradually turned cold after a long silence. He added, if you don't agree, then I won't come to pick you up. Anyway, it's not just me who will lose face. I remembered what my mother had told me: words are intentions, and actions are results in the end. He just didn't want to pay the betrothal gifts, right? He was even threatening me with not coming to pick me up. But from the flower arrangements at the wedding venue, the style of the wedding invitations, to the venue selection, I had been communicating with the planner non-stop all by myself. The entire cost of the wedding was also paid by my family. Worried that he couldn't afford a ring, I even bought one myself and showed it off in my WeChat moments, telling everyone that it was a ring my husband bought for me and that he was very good to me. All I needed was for him to show up on time for the wedding and pick me up, even if the betrothal gifts were what was left after he had taken money from me over the years. It didn't matter. Couldn't he even do this? My mother seemed to sense something and walked towards me. Yao Yao, what did he say to you? Let me talk to him. I pushed my mother's hand away and told her it was okay. She had worried so much about my naivete. How could I trouble her further? I said to Zhou Chen. Fine, come then. I had made the greatest concession. Zhou Chen tried his best to suppress the excitement in his voice and kept saying, good Yao Yao, you're so understanding. You're the woman I love the most. But you know, my family's conditions aren't that good. My parents are farmers, unlike your family, which has been in business for 3 generations. What else do you want? I was already getting impatient. Zhou Chen said, give me a villa in Xishan from your family as a dowry, and transfer 5 commercial shops in your family's commercial building to my name. How about that? Hearing this, I stared at him in shock. The villa in Xishan was very close to my family's ancestral house, with a selling price of nearly 10 million yuan. Most ordinary people couldn't afford even 10 square meters of it in their whole lives, and the commercial building was in the city center CBD. The 5 commercial shops were under my mother's name and made a fortune every day. I never expected that Zhou Chen was being so greedy. Did my continuous and bottom-less concessions make him not cherish me at all? On the phone, Zhou Chen was still smugly painting me a rosy future. As long as you agree, I'll go pick you up right away. When I earn money from those shops, I'll buy you all kinds of famous brand bags and perfumes. I couldn't bear it anymore and shouted, dream on. I hung up the phone with a snap. People around were startled by my sudden outburst. I showed a vulnerable expression to my mother and opened my arms to hug her. I cried and said, Mom, I don't want to get married. I don't want to marry him. Although my mother didn't know what Zhou Chen had said to me on the phone, she respected my decision. So she started to arrange for the wedding to be called off and apologized to the guests present. Watching my mother's hard-working figure, my tears poured down. If I had listened to my mother earlier and broken up with Zhou Chen completely, I wouldn't have ended up like this. But didn't I treat him well? When his national grant was snatched at university, I asked my mother to use our family's connections to help him get it back. The school leader invited him to dinner because of me. Zhou Chen became famous in school since then. He liked to show off his wealth, quit his part-time job, and treated his classmates to meals every now and then. It was always me secretly paying the bills for him when we went on dates. I never let him spend money because I felt bad for him. Once, the flowers he gave me were those thrown in the trash on Valentine's Day. I didn't blame him, just told him not to do it again. After graduation, he didn't have a car, so I used my own money to buy a car on loan for his commute. When he couldn't find a job, I let him work in my family's company, giving him a well-paid but easy-going position. I had given my all to him, but he kept trampling on my bottom line. Fortunately, I was awake now. I wiped away my tears, broke up with Zhou Chen, and then decisively deleted all his contact information. My best friend said to me, Yao Yao, you've given so much to him over the years, don't you feel sorry now? I said firmly. My mother told me that sunk costs should not be involved in major decisions. I loved the wrong person in the past few years, but I can't let this mistake last a lifetime and ruin my life. I suddenly felt lucky. At least I hadn't gotten a marriage certificate with him. Otherwise, if we got divorced, he would definitely take at least half of my family's property. So, it's important to cut losses in time soon. The Zhou family also received the news that the wedding was cancelled. Zhou Chen called me from a different phone. Zhao Yao, we can negotiate the betrothal gifts and dowry again. If you cancel the wedding suddenly, it's not just your family that will lose face. He had already sent out the wedding invitations to all his relatives. Almost all of them knew that he had managed to get together with a wealthy girl and thought he was really something. He thought I would agree to his demands without limits. but he didn't expect that I actually cancelled the wedding. I sneered and said, Zhou Chen, don't think you can control me anymore, I'm telling you. I've made an appointment to go to the hospital next week, my family doesn't care about your betrothal gifts either, come and get them quickly. As for what I've given in the past, I might as well have fed it to a dog. He seemed to realize that something was out of his control and was a bit flustered, but he still tried to act tough. Zhao Yao, you're really something, you'll regret it for missing out on a good man like me. I thought things could be resolved smoothly. Unexpectedly, the next day, when his mother came to get the betrothal gifts, she started crying and making a scene at my door. Oh, the rich girl looks down on our poor boy. Our family emptied our savings to scrape together 660,000 yuan for the betrothal gifts. This is a huge show of sincerity for our poor family, who knew that their family, just because they have a bit of money, looks down on us and thinks we're a burden. So what if they're rich? Zhou Chen shouted even louder. 30 years on the east side of the river, 30 years on the west side. Don't bully the young man because he's poor. With a loud he away from his mother, a thick wad of yellow phlegm was spat onto the nameplate of my house. Both my mother and I were furious. That nameplate was a medal of honor. My father died in the line of duty, and the country gave it to us as a form of consolation. My mother proudly hung it at the front door where everyone passing by could see it. Now what they did was a blatant slap in the face to our family, not to mention that because of their commotion, many of our neighbors came out to watch the spectacle. Now they gathered around, wearing expressions of glee, ready to watch the show. Even if the young man's family is poor, a poor man can have high aspirations. How can you look down on others? Insulting others will bring retribution. Zhou Chen glanced at us smugly. His mother continued, as long as you're willing to apologize and provide a house as a dowry, and forget about the shops, my son might reluctantly accept marrying your daughter. My mother and I were shaking with anger. Was there really nothing we could do and just let them distort the truth like this? My mother wanted to call the security guards to drive them away, but then I had an idea. I went inside, connected to the broadcast Bluetooth and microphone, and turned the volume to the maximum so that almost the whole community could hear. Then Zhou Chen's pleading voice on the wedding day resounded in everyone's ears. I accidentally pressed the recording button in my emotional state that day, and I only discovered it later. Unexpectedly, it came in handy. Today, with the recording, everything became clear. The neighbors quickly changed their tune. They're trying to take everything from the rich family. Disgusting, so shameless, a grown-up man, actually having the nerve to ask a girl for money. Such a phoenix man. Zhou Chen and his mother clearly didn't expect this, and their expressions turned rigid. Finally, under the pointing and whispering of the crowd, they couldn't stand it anymore and ran away in a sorry state. While running, Zhou Chen's mother even lost her shoe but didn't dare to turn back to pick it up, fearing being drowned in people's spittle. Serves them right. The news of my breakup quickly spread in the circle. Since I'm beautiful, have a good figure, and come from a wealthy family, many men flocked to me as soon as I was single again. That night, someone used candles to form a heart and held a bouquet of flowers to confess his love to me amid the noisy crowd. Suddenly Zhou Chen walked out and pointed at me, saying to the boy, "Are you sure you want the second-hand goods that I dumped?" The scene immediately fell silent. The boy was stunned. I was both shocked and angry. Zhou Chen shouted loudly, "Are you cheap or what? Just broke up and can't wait to find a new boyfriend." Seamless transition. And let me tell you all, she's pregnant with my child. Whoever wants to be a cuckold can give it a try. Even if she gets rid of the baby, she's still a worthless second-hand woman. Feeling everyone's gaze, I shouted, "Shut up. This confession today was a setup by my friend. I didn't know anything about it, and I was thinking about how to gently reject the boy." How could Zhou Chen jump out and say such things? Many people turned their eyes to my belly. There was a hint of ill will in their gazes. She's actually pregnant. Wasn't she hailed as the pure and innocent goddess by the boys? Now the so-called ceiling of purity has been, by her boyfriend. Then Zhou Chen slapped me across the face. "You cheap woman, you're so eager." I was stunned by the slap. The boy who was confessing to me instinctively stood up to help me, but when his hand touched my body, he froze for a moment and then said reluctantly, "Sorry, I was impulsive today, we're not suitable." Then he ran away in a hurry amid the jeers of so many people. My fingers almost dug into my flesh. In my ears, Zhou Chen was still saying, "I'm telling you, now that you're pregnant and your reputation is ruined, no one will want to marry you. Even if someone blind enough confesses to you, they must only be after your money." I forced myself to calm down. I noticed a hidden camera in the upper left corner. Almost without hesitation, I called the police. The strength gap between men and women is huge. If I tried to fight back at that time with no one to help me, I would surely suffer more based on the surveillance footage. This incident was classified as an insult and intentional injury by the police. He was detained for 10 days and ordered to pay a compensation of 30,000 yuan. Zhou Chen didn't expect that just one slap and a few words would cost him so much. He was stunned on the spot. Now he had to pay the price for his impulsiveness. Yao Yao, to be honest, when my friend told me that you were being confessed to on Zhongshan Road, you know what I was thinking? What you think has nothing to do with me. He seemed not to hear me and continued on his own. I always thought that even if we broke up, it was just you being angry, and we would definitely get back together. So when I heard that someone was confessing to you, I panicked completely. I didn't even care about my work and rushed to Zhongshan Road like crazy. When I saw you smiling at him, I was so angry. You're clearly my woman. I don't allow you to be with him. That's why I said those impulsive words without thinking. I said coldly, so what? Do you think you're a child, baby? Should I forgive you? Finally, his true colors were revealed, so, just sign this letter of understanding. Look, your belly is getting big, let's stop arguing. Okay, I can forget about the dowry house and shops. I'm even willing to give you 1 million in betrothal gifts, as long as you're willing to marry me. As he spoke, he put on a loving expression. He took out a ring from his pocket and knelt down on one knee in front of me. The police detention site was actually turned into a proposal scene by him. I was almost angry enough to laugh. How stupid did he think I was, too? Be willing to jump into the fire pit again and again, I said. If you don't have a mirror at home, you can always use your urine. Why don't you take a good look at your shameless face? I was blind to fall for you before, but I'm not blind anymore. It's my bad luck to have met you, a Phoenix man, and supported you for 5 years. Just as I was about to leave, a figure rushed in at the door. It was Zhou Chen's mother. She stared at me angrily. You vicious woman, you wasted my son's 5-year youth, and now you're sending him to jail. Our family really misjudged you. You should go to hell. She was cursing so vulgarly that even the police officers couldn't help frowning. Auntie, it's your son's fault in this matter. The young lady must be very wronged after being slapped. Please stop. The other police officers were about to follow the procedure and handcuff Zhou Chen for detention. Zhou Chen's mother rushed forward like a mother hen protecting her chicks to stop them. No, I don't agree. Who dares to touch my son? After her tugging, the police had no choice but to let go. Auntie, this is the procedure. If you're not satisfied, you can apply for bail, but your son really has to be detained for now. My gut feeling told me that this old woman wouldn't listen. I saw her take a deep breath. I instinctively took a step back. Then I saw her hunch her body, stretch out 2 fingers forward, and with her left foot constantly stepping forward, she shouted loudly, back, back, back. Almost all the police officers in the station were stunned. What kind of strange move was this? Not to mention those who were close to her, who were sprayed with her spittle and couldn't help but wipe their faces with paper. Zhou Chen seemed a bit embarrassed and couldn't help saying, Mom, you can just apply for bail according to the regulations. Don't embarrass yourself here. But his mother said, Son, don't be afraid, Mom will protect you. There was a kind of resolute and almost holy radiance on her weathered face at this moment. The police couldn't help warning, Auntie, if you keep delaying us, you'll be considered as obstructing legal procedures. Zhou Chen's mother didn't listen. A group of police officers tried to pull her away, but she stretched out her 19 white bone claw and scratched them all. As she scratched, she shouted, Don't think I'm afraid of you. You guys were still sucking on your mother's milk when I was out in the world. The scene was in chaos. The big men could bear it, but a newly graduated female police officer had her face scratched and couldn't help crying. After that, no one cared about Zhou Chen's mother's nonsense. They all rushed forward and handcuffed her as well. Now both mother and son were going to be detained. Finally, this farce came to an end. It was also at this time that I learned that after the breakup, many rumors had spread. Some said that I was a gold digger who looked down on Zhou Chen's poor family. Some said that I had a new love and made a seamless transition. There were even those who said that I was with him because I fancied his youth and good looks. I didn't need to think to know who was secretly spreading these rumors. I was almost angry enough to laugh. Originally, I thought that the breakup should be more decent. Even though his family had repeatedly behaved badly, at least I shouldn't make a scene. But now, why should I give them face? So I hired a lawyer and an accountant to calculate the expenses I had spent on Zhou Chen in the 5 years we were together and demanded compensation from him. I was shocked when I calculated in these 5 years, I had spent over 4 million on him. So as soon as Zhou Chen and his mother were released from the police station, They had to face huge compensation. They were furious. My phone was almost blown up. He said in a harsh tone, "Zhao Yao, you really disgust me. You even want me to pay back such a small amount of money. What about the youth and emotional value I've given you over the past few years?" I was speechless. "If you hadn't forced me again and again, would I have done this? How much do you think your youth and emotional value are worth? Even a dog would be more useful than you," he said with suppressed anger. "You forced me. You'll regret this." I hung up the phone indifferently, not taking it seriously, but I didn't expect that the next day, his whole family started a live stream, holding their IDs and accusing me publicly. Zhou Chen's mother said, "My son dated a rich girl, he treated her so well. Now that they've broken up, she's asking for all the expenses during the relationship back, for a million yuan, for a million yuan. Our family has been farmers for 3 generations, how can we afford to pay that much?" Some comments were still rational. "Aren't boys usually the ones who spend money in a relationship? This is the first time I've seen a girl spending so much," Zhou Chen said brazenly. "Her family is rich, she forced the money on me. I didn't even want to spend it, who knew she'd ask for it?" Back after the breakup, where's the logic in that? His eyes were red. Zhou Chen was 186 meters tall, with a handsome and outstanding appearance. His vulnerable look in front of the camera immediately won the hearts of many young girls. Brother is so handsome, it's only right that his girlfriend spends more money on him. That girl is so annoying. If it were me, I wouldn't only not ask for the money back, but I'd even transfer 5 million yuan to brother. The popularity kept soaring later. Someone even exposed my identity information and home address. Some of his fans rushed to my online platforms to bully me. The private messages were really disgusting, and many of my friends knew about this and were constantly gossiping about it in private, which greatly affected my real life. I knew that his family was trying to force me to cancel the lawsuit with this method. Dream on. Do they still think I'm the naive and weak Zhao Yao from before? I immediately asked the lawyer to collect evidence and use blockchain to preserve the evidence. Then I posted a video, angrily refuting those abusive private messages one by one. "No matter where you run, as long as you're still on this land, I will definitely sue you in a different place until I send you to jail." Then, I also told netizens about Zhou Chen's various behaviors during our relationship and after the breakup, including my large amount transfers, holiday gifts, and the recording of him forcing me with the wedding pick-up. I put them all online. During this relationship, I had always had a clear conscience. Of course, I could stand the judgment of netizens. As soon as the video was posted, it unexpectedly became a hot topic on the trending list. Many people said that my act of daring to use legal weapons to defend myself in the face of online bullying was really cool. After they learned about all the things Zhou Chen had done, they were all astonished. Netizens rushed to Zhou Chen's social media platform. "Buddy, you're embarrassing all men, or are all men like you? The world is full of wonders." Zhou Chen quickly cancelled his account, acting as cowardly as a turtle retracting its head. Those little fans who received the lawsuit documents from other places were all stunned and sent private messages to plead for mercy. "Sister, I was wrong. I was just blinded by that scumbag. Please give me another chance. My dad works at a construction site. My mom is sick, and I have a son to raise. I really can't afford to pay." But I ignored them all. These lawless people who run wild with the keyboard on the internet should all pay the price for their impulsiveness. Soon, I went to the hospital. I didn't delay for long, but so many things had happened in just 1 week. After the operation, I dragged my uncomfortable body, and my mom immediately came up to support me. "Yao Yao, you've suffered. In the world, only my mom can truly feel sorry for me." But besides the physical pain, there was boundless regret. I was so unlucky to meet the wrong person and misjudge Zhou Chen. Just thinking about that name and all the things that had happened during this period, hatred and anger welled up inside me. Why should I endure the pain of losing my child while he could be out having a good time? There was a phone box in the trash can. It looked like it had just been thrown away after someone opened a package. It wasn't dirty. I picked up the phone box and rushed back into the consulting room. My mom followed me, not understanding at first, when she saw what I stuffed into it. A look of horror appeared on her face. "Yao Yao, you," but she didn't stop me. My heart was burning with the flame of vengeful anger. The next day, I took the phone box, along with my mom and a group of bodyguards, and went to Zhou Chen's place. The Zhou family, relying on the money they had squeezed out of me, rented a small villa in the city. The monthly rent was 8,000 yuan, and they were living comfortably. I told the bodyguards to smash the vases, money, tree plants, and stone lions at the door. There was a loud crashing sound. Both Zhou Chen and his mother, who were taking a nap inside, were woken up looking at the weariness on their faces. I sneered and said, owing me 4 million yuan, you can still sleep soundly. When Zhou Chen saw me, his expression turned ugly. What are you doing here? I said, I'm here to give your family a big gift. I tried to hand him the phone box, but there was no way Zhou Chen would take it. The bodyguard simply opened the phone lid and stuffed it into Zhou Chen's mother's arms, forcing her to look. At first, Zhou Chen's mother didn't understand. When she realized what it was, an ear-piercing scream burst from her mouth. Ah, with a bang, she threw the phone box to the ground. A blurry, bloody little thing rolled out, with some protruding parts. In the hot summer, after being in the phone box for so long, it stank to high heaven. Zhou Chen frowned. Zhao Yao, my home is not a garbage dump. Zhou Chen's mother went crazy and tried to grab my collar, but the bodyguards pulled her away. Her eyes widened like bells. You woman, you have such a vicious heart. My grandson was already taking shape, and you dared to take him out. How can you have a clear conscience? As she spoke, she wailed and cried. After all, as an old person, she cared deeply about children and descendants. My mom said it was the right decision for her not to keep it, otherwise, her whole life would be ruined by you. Zhou Chen realized what that thing was. His expression changed, and his hands started to shake. He no longer showed disgust and picked it up. This is my son, I said. Yes, the thing you got me pregnant with by poking holes in the condom. I'm returning it to you now. Are you happy? The bodyguards heard this and showed all kinds of strange expressions, looking at me in a weird way, but I didn't care at all. The old Zhao Yao died after coming out of the operating room unexpectedly. The next moment, Zhou Chen raised his hand and threw the embryo out. The thing landed heavily in the flower bed in the distance. Zhou Chen's mother shrieked and immediately rushed over to retrieve her dear grandson. Zhou Chen's expression turned terrifyingly sinister. Since things had completely gone beyond repair, he might as well completely tear off the mask. You bitch, you're just a slut that I ed. A stream of vulgar words came out of his mouth. He was so angry that he even tried to come up and hit me, but my mom directed the bodyguards to stop him. I looked at him coldly. To me, this was just the desperate struggle and impotent rage of a wild dog. What's more, I still had a trump card to deal with him. I said, Zhou Chen, you should return the car to me. Zhou Chen was suddenly stunned. After the breakup, I asked him to return the money after he was detained. The job I found for him was also lost. Now, there was only the car left. I had specially asked my mom for this car because I felt sorry for his commute to work. He had been driving it for 3 years. Of course, I should take it back now, Zhou Chen said. What car? I don't know what you're talking about. Did he think he could get away with playing dumb? Besides, I had already seen the car parked in his yard, and the car keys were hanging on his belt. I gave the bodyguards a look, and they immediately rushed forward. Ignoring his struggles, they forcefully took the car keys. Then I twirled the keys leisurely in my hand, took my mom's hand, and walked towards the car. Zhou Chen rushed in front of me in a flash, looking visibly panicked. Yao Yao, if you want money, I'll pay you back. I can even endure losing my job because of you. But the car, you really can't take it away. For Zhou Chen, who grew up poor, this car was his only hope. If I hadn't asked my mom for it, this ordinary Buick would have taken him, an ordinary person, 20 years of hard work to afford. Looking at his anxious and flustered appearance, I found it funny, probably because I grew up wealthy. Money meant nothing to me, but it turned out that once a woman experienced the feeling of money and power flowing through her hands, it was more fascinating than so-called love. With just a few 100,000 yuan, I could control his hope. This feeling was really satisfying. In the distance, Zhou Chen's mother couldn't find her dear grandson and came running. When she saw that I was about to take away her precious son's dear car, she stomped her feet in a hurry. I don't agree. If any of you dare to touch my son's car, I'll call the police. This is robbery. When someone told her that it was my car, she said, so what? He's been driving it for 3 years, so it's his car now. If you don't believe me, I'll call the police and let the police uphold justice for us. I almost laughed. Okay, auntie, hurry up and call the police. I'm waiting for the police to confiscate this car. As I said that, I was about to drive. Unexpectedly, Zhou Chen's gloomy voice sounded from behind. Zhao Yao, do you really have to be so heartless? You've forced me to have nothing left. I said, you deserve it, but I didn't expect that he suddenly rushed towards me. He was holding a sharp, silver, glinting object in his hand. Die. He was so fast that the bodyguards didn't have time to react. Suddenly, a figure flashed in front of me, then there was a sound of a dagger stabbing into flesh. My mom fell into my arms, my mind was still buzzing. And I couldn't react. Mom, I cried out almost heart-rendingly. Zhou Chen shouted loudly, ha ha ha, great, I didn't stab you, but stabbing your mom is fine too. I hope she dies right away and makes you suffer for the rest of your life. Zhao Yao, you forced me. He pulled out the dagger and wanted to stab again. Finally, the bodyguards swarmed up and stopped him. Soon, the police car and ambulance came roaring. In the hospital, I stayed by my mom's bedside for a day and a night. Finally, my mom woke up. I lay in front of her bed, almost crying my eyes out. Mom. Fortunately, if you left, my mom gently stroked my hair and said, it's okay, Mom is okay now, but I really should have discussed this pregnancy with my parents when it happened. I said, if I had listened to you, Mom, and broken up with Zhou Chen at that time, none of this would have happened. I really wished I could go back in time and slap myself for being so determined to be with Zhou Chen. My mom said, sigh, Yao Yao. Mom is also at fault. If Mom could have clearly explained this person and his underlying behavior to you at that time, instead of hitting you and making you go on a hunger strike, things definitely wouldn't have turned out like this. It was Mom who was too decisive before, had no patience with you, was too focused on her career, and didn't give you enough love, which made you sink into his false love. Listening to my mom's words, I was in tears. Mom, now that my mom and I had talked things out, all the previous grudges had disappeared. My mom and I hugged tightly. I felt filled with joy and contentment. My mom asked me what happened to Zhou Chen. I said that he was convicted of intentional injury. I hired the best lawyer, and he was sentenced to 8 years in prison. He would spend the rest of his life in prison, and after he got out, he and his mom would spend their whole lives repaying the debt. Moreover, after Zhou Chen was detained, his mother couldn't stand it and fainted on the spot. Later, she was sent to the hospital and diagnosed with cancer, which required an astronomical amount of treatment fees. It was said that she fainted from crying in the hospital. If it weren't for thinking about her son, she would have wanted to jump off the building. In the distance, the clouds were light, the wind was gentle, and the sky was bright. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door. A handsome man in a suit and leather shoes came in with a bunch of gifts. After going downstairs with him, he somehow produced a bouquet of flowers. The bright red roses made his resolute face seem a bit flushed. These flowers suit you. He was a guy my friend introduced to me some time ago. He fell in love with me at first sight and then launched a passionate pursuit. My affair had caused a huge stir in the circle. Almost everyone was watching the show, sneering and mocking, but only he had stood firmly by my side from beginning to end. I knew that I still had a beautiful life of my own.